how many people are aware of FHIR and comfortable reading the FHIR specification? Promising. And profiling? Okay, promising as well. So this is from the site, but if you're not really aware of FHIR, this is gibberish. What actually profile means is that authors of FHIR defined FHIR. It was the deliberate decision to follow the Pareto principle and to use 20% of use cases to cover 80% of needs. This leaves a lot of room for extensions, which I strongly disadvise, and a lot of room for proliferation and localizations and stuff like that. But it's needed because, like some other specification, FHIR authors do not try to define the world. This is not possible, so they stick with what works for 80% of people. Profiles, because of this approach, it's not ready-made solution. You cannot deploy the FHIR server and all of a sudden you will have everything that you need. Implementation is always adoption of specific needs and local needs. And semantic and technical interoperability is just 2 layers. So FHIR will not solve our problems if we don't have the additional 2 layers. And this is government and policies. So profiling, there are a lot of other things, but let's focus on this simple task, the simple way of doing it. So you can constrain the cardinality of every element in FHIR. You can constrain cardinality of resources in some bundle. Constraint is always down. So FHIR is usually defining things as none too many. And you are constraining down and saying, oh, my patient must have one name and only one name, or at least one name, and so on. Slicing resources means that many FHIR resources, as their attribute uses a list. List is open, it's not ordered. You can put a bunch of things inside. Many lists are multi-types, so you can put inside code and codable concept and identifier and what's not. So slicing list means that you are providing further definition what this list present, and you can also provide the further definition for each list item, the context and meaning of every list item, even if they are different, as I said before. Extension, as already explained, you are extending when you are hitting the wall and you cannot fulfill your needs and requirements with standard FHIR. Binding resources means binding a resource element to specific type. So many types in FHIR in resource, many types could be this or that and so. So you're saying my resource for this attribute of the resource, it must be this type and all others are forbidden. Binding is also for binding to specific terminology, usually using value sets. So you're not binding to specific, you can bind to the specific system as well, but usually you're binding to value set. Value set is the sub-list of concepts present in the system. Adding, removing operations and actors' capabilities to define the API and how all this is going to work. So constrain it. We will go through the code later, so you will see the other part of all of this is that this is standard FHIR, and this is our profile created just for you, just for today. And we are constraining many things. So we are saying that ID should be omitted. So we are not forbidding it. It can be still, but you should omit it because it's data clutter and this resource is designed to live inside one bundle. So you don't need identifier because this resource will never be searchable by the ID. This is the business ID. You are defining the use. This is the identifier, and you are defining the use. The use must be AMCA. How we are doing this? We are defining the type and saying that the type of the identifier is official. It's not common. It's not friendly. It must be official. You are defining the coding, and in coding you are saying that the code must be social security number coming from this system, which is out of the box FHIR. You are defining that the code must be issued by system, which is the AMCA issue. And you are defining that AMCA must be 11 digits long, but also you are defining not just 11 digits, you are defining how these 11 digits must look like. So you are providing here a little bit of FHIR pet, which is another concept of FHIR specification. You are providing the good old regex. And you build the validation of AMCA directly into this data type instead of having disconnected rules somewhere else and then you are doing things. You are doing this by constraints, and constraints, as you can see, we have added a couple of constraints. These are FHIR constraints, these are our constraints. One is AMCA must be like this, and the other ones, this element should not exist, which we saw it here. Okay, here is another example. This is for the healthcare professional. So when you are defining the identifier, no, sorry, lapse. This is the other identifier of the patient, and this identifier is medical record. It can come from any system. As you can see, we are not fixing the system to anything. We are not fixing the value to anything, but we are fixing that this identifier must represent medical record number, usually a local medical record number in HIS or EMR. Next one is slicing. So here we are slicing. Patient can have multiple identifiers. Yes, we have FHIR here. So patient can have none or many identifiers. We are saying Greek patient must have two, at least one, and maximum two. The first one is Greek AMCA, and the second one is medical record. This helps also software developers, the vendors, so they don't need to iterate through the list. They can, by specification, know that the first item in the list is always AMCA, they can rely on it. The next slicing is, example is for telecom. This could be for patient or for practitioner or for any person. So this is the contact point for this person. And telecom in standard FHIR is, again, none to many. We are saying here that it must be at least two. It's open. It can have multiple modes, but it must have at least two, and these two must be either phone, either mail, by constraining what needs to be inside the use and the type of the contact point. Extension resources. So there are modifier extensions and normal extensions. Normal extensions are normal. Modifier extension means that the meaning of this information change how this resource should be treated. Modifier extension in a medication is not happened. So you have the whole medication statement, but you have the modifier saying that this medication has not been administered. Everything else looks the same, just this extension. Extension in FHIR are declared and undeclared. If they are declared, every actor, client or server, must support declared extension. They need to know what to do with this information. undeclared extensions are not forbidden. You can have it as many as you want, but none of the system is obliged to process those extensions. We are saying here that we have birth address as extension, because in Greece, birth city is often exchanged together with patient demographics. And we have the modifier extension DNR, which is wild example that this patient documented his or her will that they are rejecting reanimation if heart stops. This is an example how profiles should be use case driven. So you have some doctors can see the list of patients, and it will be nice if patient is marked, is it true or false for this directive. Of course, at the back there is a provenance connecting this statement and the document and actors when this statement has been given to the system, because this is serious things, of course. What else? So these are extensions, and then we have extension. Birth address extension is standard FHIR extension, published. You can use it, it is declared. And this one is our extension, and here is how we define this extension. That it has the URL, so we can recognize this extension is really this. And it can have, it has the advanced directive coding saying that patient either forbid reanimation or allow reanimation, or that information has not been collected and it's not known. For this to work, we have also value set somewhere, but we will probably come later to this. Binding. Are we going forward or back? No, I forgot to put screenshots inside. I will show you in the code and implementation guide later. So API, we are saying that our resource, in this case, where is it? Patient, Greek requirements resource, allows only reading and searching. And you can search also by DNR extension that we showed before. So no create, no update, no delete, no version search, just read. Search parameter for this wild example for DNR and how you will going to search this. So to summarize how we are creating this, I will not read it. This is copy paste from the FHIR site, how it is done. You have the link there. So how we are going to do this? There are a couple of tools. I think that this one is near retirement. I'm not really sure. Forked by FHIR, which is the desktop application written in .NET. Regime Profiler is the new one. It works in the web. It works also on the desktop. And Sushi for Fish. Fish is the domain-specific language maintained together with every other FHIR tools like FHIR Pet and so on. And Sushi is the tool using this Fish domain-specific language specifications, converting them into FHIR resources, and then giving FHIR publisher FHIR resources to continue work. So there is a pipeline of how all this works. So let's switch to dirty things. Okay. So this is demo for today. We have a FHIR implementation guide built. I will show you the code, how this has been built. It have menu which you, using the sushi drives, how this should look alike. You can have custom pages inside. Inside custom pages, you can have images and what's not. You can have flows, which is really nice thing. And to do flows, you have two different things. One is to use good old UML, plant UML, and provide the plant UML source code to this build process. Source code will call the plant UML jar file, create the SVG, and insert SVG here that you want. The other one, which is becoming my favorite because plant UML is then versioning and maintained differently, separately from implementation guide. I won't like to have everything versioned together. You have flows directly in FHIR by utilizing example scenarios. So you are defining who are the actors, what they are doing, and what kind of things they are exchanging. And the FHIR publisher together with Sushi will build all this for you. You have the specifications, of course, with artifact resources, downloads. One of the good things of a FHIR implementation guide is that it is downloadable, because at the end of this build process, the tools are creating a bunch of static files, web files, that are packed into one folder, so you can browse this, as you can see. You can browse this locally. If you want to validate things, instead of downloading the whole thing, you are downloading just the package, and then use the HL7 FHIR validator tool, providing the package, which is the profile, and providing your instance, and saying, validate this for me. You will end up with something like this. If you are using publisher, you will get the QA page. If you're using validator, you will get the XML file as a report of validation. So you have here which publisher we were using, warning that because our package starts with HL7LS, it must follow these rules. To which packages we are depending. So as we said before, the FHIR base specification, is it 5 or 4, and then other things that you want. Other useful things, and then you have all things that you provided. If they have errors, warnings, or hints. And really important thing, which I missed to say before, how to gain traction and how to gain recognition, is to provide for every profile, to provide the example. Because at least developers much better understand the example plus specification than just the dry specification, how some things should be done. So you have everything, and you can also ignore messages like I'm doing here. If you are ignoring message, FHIR is saying that this endpoint, which is the acme.com, is not known during the build process and so on. But in any case, this is the message. Let's go back to messages. This is the message defining the flow. So FHIR does not need to know locations of these things. So let's go to specification now. We have artifact resources. They are same thing in different format. So we define here capability statement. If you remember from before, we define the search extension. I didn't show you this. We define the admission message and admission acknowledgement message like standard ADT. We define the patient, Greek patient, and counter using in these messages. We profiled some of data types, not just resources. we added one extension, and we have a couple of value sets and a couple of systems. There is example that we saw before, and now we go to patient, for instance. This is the screenshot from before. Here is our patient with everything that we defined before and explained, with differentials and snapshots, and also with the example. So we have here the example. It has narrative, which is the part of the build process. This is not done manually. So you can have this. You can also omit. I don't want to spit out XML and TTL specifications. JSON will be for the whole Greece. And here is what you before show, but this is done instead of using other tools or manually. This is done by tool. And the same is with others, like structure definitions and stuff like that. So, let's go back. Go back. Here we define the bundle, and we are defining that this bundle must follow some specifications. First of all, it must be of type message and not any other bundle. And because it is a type message, we are also somewhere omitting the usual bundle stuff, which is request, response, and search, and so on, which is in every bundle. You don't need this here. And here in bundle, we are saying, because bundle works pretty much, a bundle of type message works pretty much same as bundle of type document. You presented before, so you always have, in a payload, you always have a header, which explains what is this all about and what you should expect inside. In CDAs, these are driven by template IDs. So based on template ID, the system executing this CDA or doing operations on it can rely that content inside is based on this, because the CDA went through validation and so on. Here is the same. So you are defining in a bundle, which are not of type search set or operations or whatnot. The header is the first thing. And in header, you are saying, what is this about? And what is inside the bundle. Then the next slice, this is also slicing. The next slice is encounter, which is needed in ADT. Admission, discharge, transfer. Who is the subject? I omit who is the admitter, who is the organization, and so on. But let's switch to a code a bit. Am I boring you? Okay. So how this looks like in Sushi, we will go through DSL, but the first thing that you do is you are creating the ini file. And ini file is saying that my implementation guide will implement this template. You can have your own templates, like you saw now, HR7 Hellas, but you can also use HR7 Europe, HR7 World, your own template, which is not locally, and so on. We are saying here, no, do not send statistics to FHIR organization, and how much we will wait for Jekyll. Jekyll is, so the whole process is that you are creating the Sushi files, the fish files, and then Sushi is getting them, transforming, as I said before, I'm repeating myself, transforming them, giving them to publisher. Publisher do the validation and creation of implementation guide. At the end, publisher is giving this to Jekyll. Jekyll is static site generator. So it creates all these HTMLs for you and links and stuff like that, and then return it back to publisher to finally validate everything. Also pages, if they contains broken links and stuff like that, and spits out the whole thing. You are creating first initiation of the implementation guide, and then you are steering the Sushi. So you are saying that my implementation guide is this version. Next time when you change something, you are raising the version, of course, but it can be that your implementation guide 1 contains patient profile version 1, and your encounter 1 and admission message 1 and so on. Version 2 of your implementation guide contains all versions the same, just patient has been bumped to version 2. So there are multiple layers of versioning. Versioning of the code, versioning of the IG, resources inside. And also which version of FHIR are you supporting. So we are saying what is our canonical URL, that this implementation guide will be recognized, version, name, status, and stuff like that. These are, as I copy-pasted here, these are required, everything else is not. But actually it's good to have a title, otherwise you have the ugly header in implementation guide with nothing. Who is the publisher, jurisdiction of all of this? Based on jurisdiction, implementation guide will try to, the build process of implementation guide will try to translate the implementation guide. It fails with Greek. I haven't time to find out why. You are declaring your dependencies, and that implementation guide is in English. For oncological project, implementation guide is in Greek language, but this is against the advice of HR7 that every guide should be in English, because if it's in Greek, you are actually, without forcing, you are forbidding vendors outside of Greece to come and offer their products to you. Here, as I said before, you can exclude things that will be generated if you want everything or not. Again, statistics out, show variants of things that you have. And here you're defining the pages. You can define pages in XML and Markdown. So you are defining the pages, and then you are building the menu. Menu can be built also as menu XML in some other directory here. So building the menu and saying how it will going to look for you. This will be created for sure, but every other page around you define if you want. And then you have the input, which is the most important folder, the directory. So all of these are created automatically during the build process. So we are creating the template and input. And here, for the first time, the publisher is fetching terminologies and itself. So to cache, to not go to the internet every time. And then in input, you have fish, which is the core of all things, images that you are using in the implementation guide, sources for images. So this here is the UML that was generated automatically as SVG, includes for pages, content of the pages, warnings that you want to ignore and why you want to ignore them. They are then published, as if you remember from before. And then fish. So fish is, as I said, domain-specific language, and it means FHIR shorthand to less the laborious work of defining things. So let's see how patient has been defined. So here you are putting invariants that you will use it before. I like to put it together because this invariant, this rule has been used just with this profile. Otherwise, I'm putting things in common. And you are saying that your patient is derivation of FHIR patient, giving the ID. This ID will be part of a canonical URL later, so you can resolve it and say what you want to do inside. So ID must be supported. It's one-on-one and must be supported. There are differences. It can be 1-1 without this. So it must be present, but my system, it's not obliged to process. If you put mass support, then every system should be able to know what to do with this information. So we are removing things that we don't want. putting the extensions inside, one or more, putting the identifiers, slicing the identifiers. So we have two identifiers, and we will slice identifiers based on value, and value is the type of the identifier. And if you remember, type is social security or medical record, so the validator will know how to slice this and validate if both are present. You are saying that your identifiers are named identifiers, so one is called AMCA, the other one is called local ID, and you are explaining what is. This is really good to put for every field, to put the explanation what this field represents. And you are here binding. So this identifier must be Greek AMCA. So let's go to types to find it. Opa. So it must be Greek AMCA, and we saw before, here is Greek AMCA constraint. So it must have use. Use is static. You cannot change it. Type must be social security or this system. This is the area, so you don't repeat the whole thing, and so on and so on. I will not go through all the resources, just to give you the gist of everything. So here we define the terminology system, which is hierarchical and contains concepts, properties inside the concept. Properties are defined what they are really meaning. You can define the bilingual system as well. You can put, if I understood you before correctly, here you can put for KIP, TIP, LOINC and ICD, you can put here designation patient-friendly concept name, and you have everything in the same system, and you are just expanding and cherry picking. I want this display or that display, while code remains the same. So everybody understands. But you are never serving systems to anyone, so you are serving the value set. So this value set is, this is the directive to not reanimate the patient if there is cardiac arrest. We are saying that this value set is providing 3 codes from LOINC, and that's it. You cannot pick any other code, even if it's from LOINC. This is the value set used for that field. So you are specifying, constraining down things. Value set can represent the whole code system. So you have one-on-one. No, that one, sorry. This one is different example. So this one is the whole value system. And here you are saying, this is my system, and I have a value set exposing myself just like that. You don't need to have systems in your solution. You can rely on systems which are available elsewhere. Here we are saying to include all codes from LOINC where class type is 2, one which means laboratory domain, I think. And you can have subset of external as well. So not all codes, but from this category of observations, we are accepting only 3 things. We are using this in oncology, so every diagnostics is either order for diagnostics, and the result is either imaging, laboratory, or physical exam of a patient. Elias says, please. Yes. Yes, you are defining, if it's yours, you are defining it here. If it's from the outside, you are defining it using the full URL, which is canonical, and you can also define the profile as you asked before. So there is a, if we go back to Where are we? Let's go to patient. Because there are no versions now. It's just one version. You will have history here, so you can see the previous versions. Canonical URL will change. Here you will have the pipe and then the version number. So if you are doing like this, give you the latest one. If you want the version, and if the version is, as you explained before, if the version is minor, there are no breaking changes. You are still not ready for the next version. Your system is working on the previous one. Previous one is available. FHIR server can host multiple profile versions, so it can work. And you are defining I am compliant with version 1, version 2, next quarter. Terminology is not a question for technology. It's a question of governance, mostly technique. But currently, we are using, let me show you. So this is ecology implementation guide. We will not go through it. There are a lot of things to read about and other stuff, how we are doing, why we are doing all of this and stuff like that. Can you remind me about validation, just to answer first this one? So if you go to artifacts and systems, okay, where is it? Here it is. Technique said ICD-10, Greek edition, here it is. When they will say 11, okay, change it to 11. Bindings will change in profiles where they are constrained to certain bindings and so on. So you can see it's defined, it is deployable, it is available also not inside the implementation guide, it is available also in terminology service. So governance, not technology. Here we provide also, as I mentioned you before, so we are getting the validator from FHIR, getting the package that you want, creating your resource, however you are creating your resource, and you are just saying to validator to validate your resource against FHIR version 5 and against this package, implementation guide profile, and it will spit out to you the validation result.
So when you say, sorry if there are.
Sure.
It's a problem.
Open source Java software package. It's quite large. Publisher is also large, jar of 200 something megabytes. And the process of this is black box still for me. Some errors I need to attach debugger to see what's wrong with building process. Here in this implementation guide, that once we all agree that it is a starting point, or if it's not, we can just copy paste or use some things and come up with some more meaningful. But I also provided how to set up the environment for all of this. Hope I need this one. Come on, man. Cannot see what I'm clicking. Okay. Preview. So how you will build this pipeline by yourself? It's nothing special. And this is the command. And starts. It finishes, depends, oncological project, it finishes after 17, 18 minutes. US score after 40 minutes, but at the end, it finished. Any questions?
It's a heavy list. Regarding the constraint that you mentioned before, the regex, where do you define them?
You are defining them in invariants. So here, this is not the only one. So we have invariants, and we have here, where is it? Where are the other things here? Okay. We have also, I didn't show you something. Okay. So you are defining invariants, and invariants can be defined and then reused multiple times, or just once. So here is the date of birth in Greece must be in this form. It cannot be just here. It must be because FHIR is flexible and open and allows you many things. So if you are having something which is specific, I am putting them together. This is, are we using spaces or tabs? The same thing. But also, you can have common invariants. So here we have invariants of shell or should. In both cases, we are expecting that this element is not present, but here this is just the warning, and here is error, and it's forbidden to have this in your resource. And you can have also a kind of functions. So we are calling this instead of writing all the time the same thing. So here, for instance, no, here, where I put this in bundle. Okay, where is it? Instead of repeating this portion of code, we are saying here, insert in the bundle slice, which is called header. This is the cardinality, this is the example, the description of this, and at the end there is a type. What kind of type should be in this slice? And yes, the important thing. So once you create the profile, you can also create the example. Examples could be example or inline. If they are example, they are used in example tab of every resource, structure definition. If they are inline, like here, they are not available there because they are part of this example. At the beginning, this fish looks ugly, but over time you start to appreciate expressiveness of the syntax.
So the example also validates your implementation?
Yes. Yes, and at the end, this report contains everything. So you have structure definitions. So these are your definitions and specification, but also your examples. So everything is delegated. You are actually using, this is nice because you are also using example to see if your specification is unimplementable, because you define something which cannot be expressed in example. You wanted to ask something?
Yes. In which language are the definitions of the structure, the content of the new item? For example, I saw somewhere date to string
What do you mean? So here you are saying that this example, this instance, is in Greek language. I put this deliberately here because in the specification I said that this should be omitted, just to trigger the warning so you can see it in validation. But you can define the language of content inside your instance. You can define the language in implementation guide. And also you can define the
Go to the date. Find the date. For example, birth date.
yes.
Here.
Yeah.
Expression.
Yes.
Birth date to speak.
This is FHIR. This is specification. FHIR is a specification how you can use graph syntax to reach the element, either for extraction or validation or whatever. So it's a combination of FHIR and regex. If you define the new element, here it will be the name of your element. Birth date is part of standard FHIR. But if you define whatever you're defining, your element shall be resolved by FHIR, and then you can go deeper.
So,
Was too much.
yes, yes, but I would like not to afraid anymore. We have a different ways to do this. One way is this is the code. This is the best one for me, for I think Nenad also agree on this. We have different ways to do this. Okay, but this is the best way.
This will not be done by everybody. Reading, of course, but you will not be forced to do this.
Yes.
This is editorial.
We will have specific roles in our work group. Say, for example, me, Nenad, or Platon will be the developers. So we will take all the feedback from you and create the specification. Actually, if you see work groups meeting like in Australia and YouTube, you will see that they all sit in front of the actual layout, the specification, and discuss on this. This is the problem, not to code all this. The problem is to decide, for example, if APCA will be identifier or will be an extension, the versioning schema, for example, the slicing. The slicing must understand it explicitly what, how can we use it, for example, in all this stuff. So I don't think that, thank you for excellent presentation, but I don't think it's something that will drive us to
No. Just to finish, demonstrate that there is a process behind it's nice because you can version everything as you put it inside every change the document. Because I found this very helpful. So everybody understands why from now on this behavior is like that. This delivery that has to like this decision. Okay.
So, as Nenad say, it's not the implementation, it's the governance, the progress. Okay. So this is what we have to keep in mind now. So, any other question? I have a lot, but I will take Nenad. We go.
We will need to regulate forward.
So,
Maybe just one comment.
Yes.
When it comes to specification, and try to make decisions for the future. So sometimes it's difficult because we might accept some because we are polite. We should. So it's a tough one from some psychology.
Excellent point. And to be honest.
Yeah, we have to be honest.
Yes.
I have seen a lot in like software development with managers and stuff. Usually we do like a discussion and sometimes we do like a solution somewhere in the middle. But we shouldn't do this exercise. We should be honest and stay.
Okay.
This will help us with transparency. So the public take it, download it, play with it, take out your suggestions, changes.
Okay, we have the next steps now. Okay, we will update you, we will follow up with links, etc. The next step, the next meeting. Okay, we will confirm the emails, all this stuff. Can you have any questions or feedback, please don't hesitate to ask, to send us. We will set up a special email for this, for the work group, to get, at least for the first time, all the questions that we will have. Tomorrow, as I told you, 4 o'clock, I think we have also another meeting. It will be also other 2 experts that also will discuss their work there. So, what else? Friday we have the official kickoff. FHIR.
I forgot. But on this, you can also define logical business. You have the whole thing in the implementation, right? So you have that. This I forgot to tell you. So,
No problem. Anyway, in the first meeting we will also concentrate on educating. And that's we will also educate. So it will be another task. I don't have anything else for today. I would like to thank you all. I will speak in English because we have to. Thank you once again. Thank you, Yannis and Yorgos, for the presentation, and all of you for your questions, the support of this work that will be done. So, hope to see you next days in our meeting. We have also interoperability labs that are very interesting. The AIC also organization have very much, I think. It's very, very interesting. And all of this stuff of this conference. Once again, thank you very much.